In this video, we are going to discuss EV chargers. The most common update that most people are going through right now inside their homes and businesses to take the transition from ICE vehicles to EVs, PHEVs, hybrids, etc. One of the most common questions we get asked is about the compatibility. If you have a physical car charger at the moment, could be a Type 2 universal socket, could be a tethered version, all of these devices are required to be compliant, and DNO applications have to be submitted, whether that be post or pre-installation. If it's post-installation, it has to be done within 28 days under a notify and connect, or it can be done on the pre-installation if you have an existing EV charger. Most people will apply for that to be removed and an additional unit to then be installed in its place. One of the most common things our customers ask, our inquiries are based around, and also seems to be the topic of conversation at the moment, is how can we monitor and make the most of our charger. We're going to speak exclusively about the myenergi range of products, and that is for no other reason. It's not sponsored, it's just a product that we have great confidence in. And there's a few things that you can just by default do with a myenergi product that some of the other products on the market are retrospectively trying to incorporate, and there are ways and means of making this happen, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's always the best. What I mean by that is every single car charger on the planet must be smart from today onwards. That means it needs to have an internet connection or have connectivity to the cloud, an app, and also what we refer to as load balancing. We've all seen the videos on YouTube which are great at explaining how we install a car charger, the cable from A, the cable to B. Most of the time you will find the EV installation will incorporate a brand new consumer unit, and that's based on compliance. Every EV charger in the UK now has to have surge protection, bidirectional RCDs, and it's a lot easier normally to incorporate this within a brand new consumer unit at the mains rather than having to upgrade or try and retrofit equipment into some aged existing consumer units on site. Most of the contractors will require what we refer to as an isolation switch within inside the property, whether that be inside the meter cabinet just after the meter connections, but somewhere so that they can safely isolate the supply coming into the property and then not have to deal with pulling DNA fuses, getting permissions, etc, etc. Grey area, always has been, always will be, and I don't think that's going to go away anytime soon. So every single device needs to have one of these. This is what we refer to as a current transformer, and it looks like this outside of the box. This will go round the cable that comes out of the metered supply into the property. If it's a single phase, one. If it's three phase, all three, regardless of whether or not you're having your car charger connected to the three-phase supply, i.e. a 22 kilowatt unit. You can have 11 kilowatt units, they again require 22, sorry, they don't require 22, they require the three-phase. But to essentially protect the property, this device, its sole job is to monitor, protect the fuse that is supplied by the National Grid DNO. So that could be, depending on who you are and where you are, the regional electricity supply board will be the person responsible for that fuse. Quite expensive to replace. These devices are designed to not blow those fuses. This device is very simply a latch and undo, and it then wraps around the cable. Simple. On the side of the device, you will see there is a directional arrow. This directional arrow on the grid CT has to be pointing towards the house. What that means is from the cable coming from your meter, the cable that goes around and into your consumer unit, the flow of energy into your property is the direction the arrow needs to point. This then allows for the grid monitoring and the overall consumption of the property's electrical demand to be adjusted within the car charger to prevent this device overloading your circuit and blowing your main fuse. This is what we call dynamically adjusting. The device, i.e. the car charger, will throttle itself and adjust itself on its maximum amount of output charge to your vehicle based on the demand within your house. If you've got electric cookers, electric showers, hot tubs, heat pumps, all these other kind of things that are high in energy demand, if at the time that is being used, there will be a high level of demand, and the device will monitor and adjust itself up and down between 1.4 kilowatts and the maximum of that unit. This will fluctuate the whole time the car is charging, depending on the demand of the property throughout the whole charge cycle. These devices are also very much dependent on the incoming fuse you have been supplied by your DNO. That can range from a 60, an 80 and 100 amps of supply. That is your potential maximum demand your property can handle from your grid connection. 32 amps is the current generic ratio of supply that a 7.4 kilowatt EV car charger in the UK requires. If you only have a 60 amp fuse, you have a large supply double oven, etc., induction hob, all of these things, whilst you're cooking, the car's plugged in, there's very unlikely the amount of demand available within the system to give you that additional full capacity of charge. The device will throttle itself down. Once it's throttled itself down, it will make sure it stays underneath that maximum demand of 60 amps, but once the other demands start to fall away, you'll see that it rises back up. All this information is then shared to you via the app of the product that you have in regards to the manufacturer that you've chosen to get your EV charger from. The reason we decided to speak about the myenergi products is because you've got the Zappi 2.1 and you've now got the Zappi Glow. Both of these devices have always been built with renewables in mind. So therefore, inside the Zappi 2.1, there is the option of 3 CTs. On a single supply, so single phase supply, one CT will be grid, the other 2 are normally set to none. However, purchasing additional ones of these will allow you to then input all of the information required to basically assess your incoming renewables. But there is a difference. The incoming supply is one grid. Always has to be connected. There is no way on this planet you should ever have an EV car charger installed without the grid CT. Most of the time these are hardwired, but with things like the Zappi Glow, these are now able to be done remotely via the RF units known as the Harvey. That then gives you 3 additional CT clamps. With regards to renewables, most people will have a standard installation. Most of it could be an FIT system, so it could be an inverter only, or it's going to be a hybrid system, which will be either an AC or a DC connected battery system with an inverter. If it's a standard string inverter, there will be a main supply inside your fuse board consumer unit that goes to the inverter via an isolator, but on its own dedicated MCB. Inside your consumer unit, we fit one of these, and it will see the incoming export of your renewable inverter. The main difference with this, the little directional arrow now needs to point to the top of the fuse that is supplying the energy to that inverter. The reason for that is so that when the inverter is outputting to the grid, the power goes the wrong way, and the arrow is seeing the exported output energy to the grid and can, one for a better word, harvest that energy. If there's more than 1.4 kilowatts, it will just automatically go into the car charger as a free charge at any point during your export. If you're on an FIT, It doesn't affect it because obviously your generation meter is what they do as your deemed generation. But if you have a secondary system or even a newer system, which is a hybrid, and you have a DC battery, we do need to do some setting changes. That is so that we don't start to drain the battery. That is a completely different story. If you have an AC battery, we can monitor those, because AC flow from the battery is exactly the same as AC on any other device within inside your system. And again, all we need to see is the arrow going the way that the power would go if you were exporting from your battery. We don't want to see it being charged, we want to see when it's outputting. And we can then choose to either harvest that and go into the car, or we can choose to allow it to ignore that and go to generation and grid only. If you're on an off-peak system, most of the MyEnergy systems, actually that's a lie, all of the MyEnergy systems are fully integrated with all the major online tariffs that give you that specific intelligent off-peak charging. And I say intelligent, intelligent's probably not the right word, because the intelligent I think is a copyright. It's just the off-peak charge. If you have the ability to integrate, the MyEnergy product range will do that for you automatically, and then the charger will inadvertently go in and out via automation. If it's then also seeing 1.4 of export via the secondary clip, it will then start to put that into your vehicle. These are the two most common questions we get. Can I? Yes. Should I? Most definitely. And that is, if you have an extra £20 worth of CT clamps at the installation, it is always worth having that additional clamp fitted to monitor your generation and or batteries, just so you have the additional data for the car and yourselves. It can all be contained within one app, and that app is then everything you need to know about what your car is doing, what your renewables is doing, and whether or not your charge is actually a green charge or just a standard off-grid charge. These devices are very small amounts of money and are worth every penny whilst you're having your EV installation. Now, don't get me wrong, you may have had an EV for a few years and you've just got renewables now. If you have renewables installed, speak to your installer. Most of the installers will also have the capacity to fit you one of these at the same time as they're doing your renewables. If they are, then that's great, because you will then instantly see the benefits. Don't think for 1 minute you can't go back and retrospectively adjust all these settings. Every device on the market, if it has the software inside it, if it has the firmware inside it, they should all have the capacity to buy an additional clamp available from every single manufacturer directly through the wholesaler, through your installers. These devices will without doubt benefit you with the data. It's the most common questions we get asked, and it's always about, can I, should I, and the other one we get asked a lot is, where does it go? You have to bear in mind, whilst this device is only one, is currently required by the DNO for current compliance, the device will see export, because it will assume everything going the wrong way is also export. That information is always going to be available, however, it's not going to be as accurate. What you want to be able to see is demand, generation as two separate little bits of information within the app. The EV charger will function much more responsively, and it will always allow you to then benefit from actual green energy rather than assumed because it's going the wrong way. Just remember the key fact: arrow in. On generation, it goes towards the top of the fuse. On the grid, it comes out of the meter. Obviously, some of these jobs are not able to be done by the homeowners themselves, but just consult your electrician. Every electrician who's installing EV car chargers at the moment are fully aware of how all these systems work. These are just some questions we've had asked by multiple people, and it felt like it was just something for us to come on and explain to you that these little devices that are roughly £20, a little bit more because of the labour that's going to be involved in fitting them, but they are retrospectively, you can fit them So it's a retrofit device, and if you have solar, if you have batteries, even if you change your systems, you have a second system installed, you need to monitor the second system as well, so that the second system isn't then confusing the data of the first system and or the grid. These systems are very basic in regards to what they do. They harvest data via the CT clamp. That data is processed by the device and it is shown in your app. The more accurate the data, the more efficient your system will be in regards to your charging tariffs, your car charging outputs. Everything will just work in more harmony with all the other systems. What you don't want is where we've had customers contact us and say, why is my solar battery charging up overnight whilst my car is charging, but then by the time we get up to go to breakfast, the cheaper tariff is ended and our batteries are flat. It's because it's been dumped into the car. That is a poor installation, and at the end of the day it can be avoided just by monitoring something additionally. Most companies nowadays, and most installers, as you will see, are using EV Ultra cable. That has the potential for 8 individual cores within a Cat 5 inside that cable. Some of them are even Cat 6 now. 2 pairs, normally white and orange, is used for the grid, and then you've got 6 additional cables inside that conductor that you can then use for additional monitoring. There should be no reason why you shouldn't be able to do all this from your current installation. If your current installation is just a single 3-core cable going to your EV charger, when you have an upgrade, you can even have this done by just adding an additional data cable. We appreciate that some of this work requires access to electric meter cupboards and or inside your consumer units. We would always advise to seek professional help when you are looking at these things, because these things at the end of the day are dangerous. Please don't take any of this advice as a how-to in regards to being able to do it yourself. It's just advice on whether or not you should consider having a second or third or fourth CT clamp fitted and benefiting from all these little bits of additional information and data. Our advice, always have one more. If you haven't got anything other than your grid, but you have renewables and or heat pumps and or everything else like water heaters, all these sort of things, monitor everything. It will make your product much more efficient and it will make your life so much easier. The device will do it all for you, automated, and there will be no issues whatsoever with getting this device to behave in the way that it was intended, designed, and built to do. If you're interested in anything else, please don't forget that you can also see all the information below. Don't forget, like and subscribe, and we'll be back if you've got any more questions. I'm more than happy to assist you where we can. And until next time, see you later.